Okay, now we will have a new session that our first presenter is Özgün Çetinkaya. She will talk about 40 minutes, 5 streams, 1 tool, and this is your floor, Özgün. Please go ahead.
Hi everyone. I hope your day is going well. Happy to be here. A bunch of interested system thinking, interested teachers and people. I have one good, one bad news. Which one do I start? Bad news. This is about the project about grade nines. But the good news, I'm a primary school teacher, so I never work with grade nines. This is gonna be the first time. But you'll see, like I have some example with grade three students also as well that I will show you. And I'm hoping maybe you can help me because I didn't implement this yet. So I'm gonna implement this apply next week with the grade nine students after my break. So I'm hoping maybe you would give me some feedback before I implement it. That would be so nice. Um, Let me share this. Okay. Sorry. Oops. Why are you seeing my presenter view?
Could you try again? It's coming. Yes.
But you're also seeing the presenter note. You shouldn't see that one, right?
Yes. It's now it's
You're still seeing it.
um,
Okay.
We see them right now.
That's weird. Okay.
Is that a full screen? Or do you said? Yeah, we
Yeah.
see now. It's
Okay.
full screen now.
Okay. Yeah, you too. Okay. I'd like to briefly share like the project like we are working on with our grade nine students in TC9 they call. So I'm primary school teacher I'm using system thinking tools for more than 9 years in my classrooms. And the school that I'm working in right now and in high school part is a K-12 school. In high school part, they know that I'm using system thinking tools and I'm interested in system thinking. So they wanted to use system thinking tools in the TC9 teaching climate with the grade nines. This is 2 weeks project-based kind of learning for the grade nine students about climate and like stream-based learning. So they have like 5 stream and they can choose. They can experience like explore climate-related challenges and like work toward developing more sustainable solutions. So throughout the process, they engage in different experience, including field trips, guest speakers, and collaborative project work, and also they learn about design thinking, future thinking, system thinking, indigenous approach as well on this project. So, and alongside that, they're also introduced to different ways of thinking, so which is nice. And they asked me to do this like some work with the system thinking that. So I'm helping them this year. But I decided to use one tool because we don't have time. So we have like 2 session, each of them 1 hour, one of them 45 minutes, one of them 1 hour. So I can't teach them all the tools and show them all the tools. So I decided to show them connection circle and then kazoo loop diagram after that, that it can help their project as well. So this is Lorax that I did with my grade three students for a long time ago. So I'll be using this connection circle as a starting point. So that's a simple tool. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with this tool, but if you don't, this tool helps students see relationships within a system. So I actually use this approach like with the grade threes, then it worked really well. So I really like it. They really engage with it. It also made it much easier to transition into causal loop diagrams after that. So I thought this could be a strong entry point for introducing the tool. So however, this will be my first time with the grade 9 students, so I'm not sure how it's gonna work. But it worked well with the grade 3 students, so I think it's gonna work with them too. So that I appreciate your ideas and suggestions and feedbacks if you have at the end. So the Lorax, if you don't know, Dr. Xi's book and then the movie, this is a story about a character called Wansler. So who discovers a forest full of like truffula trees, and he begins cutting down the trees and produce product and grow his business. And at first everything seems successful, then production increases, and so do profits increases too. But as more as trees cut, the environment begins to like collapse, basically. Animals lose their habitat, pollution increases, and overall quality of system declines. Eventually, there are no trees left, and the system collapses. So each action creates a chain of effects here. So I gave them one variable on this circle. I started giving them like truffle trees, or the production you can give, doesn't really matter. So we start making connections with the students. So the way of arrows and the positive and negative signs on it, it means if one of them increases and the other one increases as well, which means it's the same way. So we use the positive signs for that. But it doesn't mean that it has to be increased like that using positive. This is kind of complicated for the kids. It was for the grade 3 kids. So for example, let's look at that. If the truffula trees was full of the forest with the truffula trees and they started cutting it, and when they start produce teenage, it's like they make some product from the trees. That's what they call it, to the different name. So when the produce increase, the profit will be increased as well. So we use a positive sign here because they're going the same way. So one of them increased, the other one increased too. It's basically the reinforcing loop here. So that's a positive sign, but it doesn't mean to be that have to increase, though they can also decrease at the same time. For example, let's see if there's a like, oh yeah, no, this is the negative sign. If the trees cut and then increase, the truffula trees will decrease, which is the opposite way they're going. That's why we use a negative sign here. So grade 3 students, they were really engaging with this, and they really find a lot of like they found these like, but I also helped them as well. But they really engage and enjoy with the finding the connection. Or it's none of the story, but it's a system basically. So I'm gonna use this with the grade 9 too, to giving the idea of connection circle at the beginning. So I'll just give them some guiding questions as well. I'm not going to tell them like directly, but I'm going to ask them what happened to trees, they decrease, and what happens to next, what happens to trees and animals. So when truffula trees decrease, the animal population will decrease as well, right? So the decrease here, both of them are decreasing here. So it's going the same way. So we use a positive sign here too. So that's a connection circle I'm going to give them for an example. And then after that, this is a reinforcing loop that Sarah was also like mentioning, that reinforcing loop. So it keeps pushing the system in the same direction. So, and that's why the problem doesn't stop. So instead of saying trees disappeared, so we can now see the system cows it. If a company is making more profit because the guy in the movie in the book like have a factory and then keep cutting the trees and making profits and more produce, more product producing like keep producing and having more profit. It's just non-stop. It's just feeding itself. It's keep going. So now have some interesting happening. More profit leads more production. So it starts to feed itself. So the problem is just not the trees were cut. Its system was set up in that way that kept pushing for more production, right? The system is doing exactly what it's designed to. So I will show them how we take this loop outside and have a look. So I'm gonna ask them, do you see something repeating in this connection circle? Like, is there anything repeating here? Like, keep going nonstop. So, of course, it's an example for them that I will show you. But after that, sorry. And they have streams, so they're going to choose their stream before starting this 2 weeks project. So each of them have like a different title. So for different title, we made different connection circles. But so we prepared them for each stream, but I'm not going to give them this connection circle right away. These are not final models, by the way. But more like starting points to support student thinking here. So I'll start shortly grant this, and then I won't be giving them full example. It's just instead I'm planning to give them one variable at the beginning. For example, it's crop yield maybe to make them start their connection circle. So I'm gonna ask them to build their own connection circle from here about urban farming, farm to table. So I'm going to give them one variable here. Like each stream has a different connection circle. And I will share with this connection circle at the end of the session. So, and they can also see some loops here. So I'm expecting them to see some causal loop diagrams here to take it out and work on it, because after that we have something else that they will work on. We don't really have time to like, I want to explain this to you, but we don't really have time. So these are the streams: play, health, and well-being. They are also like have a field trip about like sustainable city design. They have guest speaker about that. So they're going to work on that climate, like sustainable solution. So the urban planning and design, and the urban heat island effect in the city, air quality in the city, like local temperature extremes, that kind of like important context. And sustainable
To
design.
finalize, Özgün.
Thanks.
Evet,
The
1
hard
minute.
find art and social justice, but here is that they are also learning about indigenous approach and indigenous led environmental initiatives too. So they're going to work on that. So my plan is to like after that they're gonna one session is they already know about En-ROAD. I'm not sure if you know that. Like maybe some of you know. Then with the connection circle and the causal loop diagrams, if they can create a causal loop, we will ask them to like for each group. So each group will focus on the causal loop diagram here, and then they find a relationship. For example, as pollution increases, temperature increase. They will explore the question, and they will look in the impact graphs here. So they will create some scenarios on En-ROAD with the impact graphs. They have different impact graphs here with based on each stream. So they're gonna work on their sustainable solution and their scenario after that. But here, I want to ask you, so I'm really curious to hear your thoughts about that. Like, if you were seeing the connection circle first time, do you think this will be like enough for you to start building your own? So, like, or would you feel like you need more structured or guidance from your teacher? Like, what do you think?
Maybe we can have the other presenter that's from South Korea, and then we will come back to your questions and comments from the participant. Thank you, Özgün.
Okay. Meltem, do you want me
we can-
to share the video?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I saw Sarah's hands, but let's listen the. Okay, all right, and then we'll come back.
Okay.
Hello, I am Clara. an AI assistant presenting on behalf of Dr. Benjamin. In this presentation, I will introduce a case of teaching systems thinking to elementary school students. Specifically, I will show how the concept of stock and flow can be taught consistently through a systems thinking game. This program was not conducted by Dr. Benjamin alone. Dr. Jongmi Lim also played a key role in this work. Although she is not a specialist in systems thinking, she is an expert in education and currently serves as a school principal. She has been a strong supporter of this program and made its implementation possible. There are 3 points. First, although this program was designed for elementary school students, the concepts of stock and flow were reflected consistently throughout the entire curriculum. Second, we used a variety of games. Through games, students become highly engaged, grasp key concepts more easily, and revisit ideas they have already learned. Third, we introduced what may be the world's first paper-cut stock flow diagram. The program consisted of 9 sessions. Each session was made up of 2 regular class periods, each lasting 40 minutes. In total, the program included 18 classes. The participants were 4th grade and 6th grade elementary school students. Given their stages of cognitive development, these groups show meaningful differences in learning capacity. The course was titled Systems Thinking Game Club. However, it was not an after-school program or an extra activity. It was conducted as part of the regular morning curriculum. Now let me walk you through each session in detail. This is the in and out game. We followed the well-known manual from The Shape of Change. In Turkey, this activity is also known as the bus game. Each student plays the game while recording data on a worksheet. After the game, they transfer their records onto a graph to observe how the system changes over time. At this point, students begin to understand the concept of behavior over time, or BOT. This is the most important point in my teaching method. Throughout the activity, the instructor keeps a simple bathtub image visible on the classroom board, showing inflow, outflow, and stock. While the game is going on, these ideas are repeated lightly and naturally. As a result, students learn the terms and concepts of stock and flow little by little, almost without noticing it, through continuous exposure to the bathtub model. At this introductory stage, and considering that the learners are elementary school students, the model is kept intentionally simple. It focuses only on stock and flow, without feedback. The mammoth's extinction game is one of the students' favorite activities. They truly enjoy it because the dice introduce random outcomes based on probability. That element of chance makes the game exciting and highly engaging. At the same time, the game is connected to the idea of extinction in an ecosystem. Because of that, students become emotionally involved. Another strength of this game is that each group produces a different result. That makes it an excellent activity for storytelling practice. For these reasons, we assign 2 full sessions to this game, or 4 class periods in total. Through this process, students begin to interpret change, not just record it. Here, I would like to show how our consistent teaching approach gradually evolves. In the mammoth's extinction game, we add the idea of feedback to the bathtub model. However, we do not emphasize feedback too strongly at this stage. This is a deliberate choice. We do not want elementary school students to struggle so much with the new idea of feedback that they lose sight of the more basic concepts of stock and flow. The rainforest game deals with a deeper idea in systems thinking, policy decision-making with delays. In this activity, students physically represent different stages of growth: a seed, a sprout, a young tree, and a fully grown tree. The most important point is that moving from one stage to the next takes time. The Korean word written largely on the board means delay. Through this game, students begin to realize that important changes in a system often do not appear immediately. They appear later, after a delay. This game shows that stock and flow structures can be connected in parallel. It also helps students see that the bathtub model is flexible. In the next activities, they explore more varied structures through games. The Hamlet modeling game is my favorite activity. If you scan the QR code, you can find my presentation at the 2023 International System Dynamics Conference, where this approach is explained in detail. This game has multiple layers of meaning. First, it demonstrates that stock and flow structures can be multi-layered. Second, it shows that even the humanities can be modeled. This idea attracts strong interest not only from school teachers, but also from university professors, because it offers a concrete example of connecting the humanities and engineering. Third, it helps explain why the humanities remain essential in the age of artificial intelligence. Finally, through the process of discussing different interpretations and reaching a shared agreement, students experience an important aspect of democratic citizenship. At this point, students finally see that a simple stock and flow structure can be combined not only in parallel but also in multi-layered ways. This helps expand their imagination. They begin to realize that stock and flow can be combined in many different ways, and that a wide variety of structures can be created from a simple basic model. In this stage, students revisit the key concepts they have learned and begin to apply them to their own lives. They integrate simple stock and flow structures, behavior over time graphs, and storytelling. At the same time, they repeatedly practice reaching agreement, an essential element of democracy. Starting from session 7, we introduce a new instructional approach. I will explain this in more detail in the next slide. Session 7 is divided into 2 parts: individual work and group work. First, in the individual activity, each student chooses one emotion as a stock. 2 points are especially important here. The first is that we define the stock first. The second is that we keep the possibility wide open. In other words, almost anything can become a stock. If these 2 points are repeated clearly, students can move through the complex ideas of stock and flow much more easily. After confirming the stock, we guide students to think about what increases it and what decreases it, and then to write those factors on the arrows. At this point, one teaching decision is especially important. We do not explain the concept of flow in detail. This is a core part of my teaching strategy. I place stock at the center and keep flow in the background. However, I repeatedly emphasize that the factors increasing the stock and the factors decreasing the stock should be connected to the faucets of the bathtub model. Now we move to the second half of session 7. In groups, students choose or agree on one emotion. Then they draw a behavior over time graph showing how that emotion changed during the day. The next step is especially important. This is the highlight of session 7. I give each group paper-cut pieces of a stock flow diagram. Students place these paper-cut stock flow pieces on top of their behavior over time graph. Then, at the points where change occurs in the graph, they look for the factors that cause the change. Next, they decide whether each factor increases the emotional stock or decreases it. If it increases the stock, they connect it to the inflow faucet. If it decreases the stock, they connect it to the outflow faucet. At the same time, I keep suggesting, indirectly, that one influencing factor may be another emotional stock. As a result, some students go further and create group models by combining several paper-cut stock flow pieces together. Now we raise this activity to a higher level. The core of this teaching method is to show that the same story can lead to different structural interpretations. In other words, students experience that different perspectives can produce different interpretations. First, the instructor tells the same story to the whole class. The script of the story is also provided to the students. Then the students follow a sequence of steps, beginning with individual work. Each student receives 2 large sheets of paper. They complete the task on these 2 sheets, and the assignment structure is shown in the center of the screen. First, they observe what is changing in the story and express it as a noun. Second, that changing element becomes the stock. Third, they represent the change in that stock as a behavior over time graph. Fourth, with the stock from the behavior over time graph as the focus, they sketch the influencing factors with a pen. At this stage, it is important to let them draw roughly. Fifth, they reconstruct that rough stock and flow sketch using paper-cut stock and flow pieces. Through this process, their ideas become much more precise. Even adults are often not comfortable drawing bathtub models or stock and flow diagrams by hand, so we can easily imagine how difficult that would be for elementary school students. This is exactly where paper-cut stock and flow becomes so helpful. It does not require a laptop on every desk or simulation software such as Stella. It is highly intuitive, hands-on, and very effective in the classroom. That is why paper-cut stock and flow is so useful. It is intuitive, concrete, and effective, without requiring a laptop or Stella software in the classroom. Once the individual work is completed, students move into group discussion. Through a process of negotiation and agreement, they combine their ideas and complete one shared final model as a group. The final session is an individual assessment. Using a real case of a keystone species in an ecosystem, students interpret change, draw a behavior over time graph, and then represent the underlying structure using paper-cut stock and flow. The process follows the same steps introduced in the previous session. One particularly meaningful moment was seeing 6th grade students support and coach 4th grade students. It was a beautiful example of peer learning in action. Thank you for your kind attention. We are continuously experimenting with and validating these approaches in South Korea. Your encouragement would mean a great deal to us. I would truly appreciate hearing your reflections by email. I hope this can be the beginning of a meaningful connection. Thank you. This has been Clara, the AI assistant to Dr. Benjamin, presenting on his behalf.
Thank you, Cam. Thank you, Benjamin, too. There's a big time difference with South Korea at the moment, but he sent the presentation. Thank you. Do you have any comment or question for Özgün and Benjamin? Amy, I think you had. Did you? Or not?
Sarah had a question.
Sarah, maybe.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I was actually just applauding, but I do kind of have a question. First, a quick comment. My students also struggle with the plus and minus signs because they think of plus as an automatic increase, and so I usually use the S and the O. But I wanted to ask, when you did the feedback, when you did the connection circles, and some of them identified some feedback loops, are you using those to leverage for the En-ROADS when you talk about finding the sustainable solution?
Yeah, with grade nines, I am planning to use, but it's just depending on students' level, I'm not sure how they're gonna like, welcome system thinking. I'm not sure. So it's first time I'm trying with them. They never like they saw the En-ROADS in 1 hour with the social studies. A teacher was interested and like I told him that he can use. They just like made some introduce like with the En-ROADS, but we'll see. Planning, but we never know. So if not, then I'm just gonna give them like some sliders and give them impact graphs, and then I'm gonna tell them just create a scenario based on your stream, not based on your loops. So
Yeah. I'm excited for you though. I think using the Lorax is a really approachable way to begin it. And we'll get them thinking about it in like a very like low stakes, low risk kind of way, and then transferring it to their.
that's good to hear that because I wasn't sure that I was just going to ask you like if you're seeing the connection circle first, would you be able to make your connection circle right away? Like
Yeah, I think it depends on how you facilitate it. So I used to teach high school and now I'm in elementary school. And it's interesting with high school students, first of all, they're really nostalgic about their childhood because they know they're about to enter the adult world. So I think like connecting to a childhood favorite is really good. I think like I'm assuming that you're not just like throwing up the connection circle, but that like they're building it with you. And I think in that kind of, right. And I think you might have to do like multiple, I don't know that they'll be able to do it like independently, but like they can do a start, right? And then they can present and like revise their thinking and like that alone, I think whenever I'm trying to do this more with systems thinking myself, like I'm doing behavior over time graphs less as like the aftermath, but more like, hey, what did you think the line was? Okay, now let's revise that thinking. Does anybody want to add to that and think about how they differ? I think when they can revise their thinking, I think there's just as much power in like the misconceptions that they're going to present. So I think they'll get there eventually, and it's like that process that's going to be like really powerful, even if they don't get to it fully. I don't know
yeah.
if that.
Yeah, it's gonna be their connection circle. It doesn't need to be the same as mine, but still I will give them some variables. Like maybe I can give them one, or it depends on the group level, then I can give them two or three, like
Yeah.
starting point. So we'll see. Just also differentiation. So thank you.
Yes, Amy, please go ahead. Thank you, Sarah. Amy, I think you are mute.
Yep. Thanks. I feel like in the Shape of Change book or some book or on the online, there's parameters or guidelines for how to create a connection circle. And I would probably print that out for the kids as well. So I think, for example, one of them would be to find, the words that you put around the circle are nouns that either increase or decrease, and, only pick 7. I can't remember the range. It's like between 6 and 8, but not 12 and not 2. And then that would help to guide them on what words to put around the circle, unless you already have the words. And then the other thing are maybe prompting questions that get them started. So like pick one noun and look around the circle and, what influence, how does this one factor influence another factor? Or just a couple of prompting questions to get them thinking, so that so at least they can be doing something, even, while you're at a different group, they can be thinking about, something on their circle. So just for me, it's helpful to have like a printout of like main questions I want the kids to be thinking about while to do the work on their own.
Where did you say? Where did you get that?
I think it's in the Shape of Change book.
I'll check. Okay.
I think it's in the, I might have a copy. Hold on.
Okay. Thank you. I'll have a look for the instructions. Maybe I'll help them. Thank you.
Oh yeah, connection circle rules. You can't see this because it's like, I can,
Yes. Yes, connection circle rules.
It's
I
interesting.
think this is
Yes.
online.
Okay.
This is the Shape of Change, but if you could like connection circle rules, I feel like this would be a really helpful guideline for everyone to fall back on and refer to.
Perfect. Yeah, I think I found it.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That'll be helpful.
Okay. I think we can close this session, but we're going to network area that we are in the same place if you want, or you can go the other rooms if you want. But we will continue from here.